Hello there. Happy Money Monday, and welcome back to another episode of the Empowered and Abundant podcast. Today, I have a very special guest for you, and we're having an incredible conversation. I'm going to be joined by Gina Casbarro, who has been on the show before. If you haven't checked out my earlier episode with her, I highly recommend, where she shares her money story. I think it's episode 49. But anyway, Gina is a certified life designer coach and a Feng Shui expert who empowers her clients to blaze their own path and create the life and space of their dreams. Gina and I spend a lot of time talking, communicating, collaborating in our businesses. And so I wanted to invite her back on to have a powerful conversation around investing in your business, investing in your life, investing in coaching, and how to know the difference between fear versus intuition, especially since she is an intuitive guide. I really wanted to get her take on how do you tell the difference between fear and intuition, and especially where money is involved, and how do you make that powerful decision in alignment with your finances as well. So I'm really excited to have her on the show. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode. Hello there, Gina. Welcome back to the Empowered and Abundant podcast. I am so excited to have you back again with us today. Thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me back.
I'm really excited for this conversation. We were talking about this beforehand, and also we talk often, so I feel like this topic has been coming up between us about how to make powerful investments with confidence in your vision, in your business, in your future, and knowing the difference between intuition versus fear, and how to make these investments strategically with confidence, especially when they feel a little bit risky. And before we dive into this topic, I would love for people who don't know you yet, or maybe haven't heard your last episode on the show, can you give us a short introduction? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yes. So I'm Gina Casbarro, and I'm so excited to meet you virtually if you're listening. And I'm an intuitive life coach, a Feng Shui guide, and the host of the Follow Your Spark podcast. And in the work that I do, I support visionaries, creatives, entrepreneurs to really bet on themselves and blaze their own path. And for me, I really find harmonizing logic and intuition is massively important in making decisions, both in what you invest in and also the actions that you take. So I'm so excited to have this conversation today and really talk about how we can work with both our intuitive sides as well as, our logical, analytical sides of us as well.
Yeah, this is going to be a great conversation. And I feel like this topic is something that I often find my own self battling with and moving through constantly over and over again as I pursue my business. And then I also see this show up for my clients all the time. So I'm curious, what has been your own either personal experience finding this balance between fear and intuition, or where's this shown up for you, or where do you see this show up for your clients?
Yeah. So when I think about intuition, and I just recorded a podcast about this, I'm like, first of all, what is intuition? I see intuition as this inner knowing that you can feel maybe energetically, physically, that even if your brain doesn't quite understand why something is a yes or why something is a no, there's something in you that pulls you towards that. And I think a lot of people think of intuition as maybe this superpower that some people have and some people don't. And I really see it as a skill and a language that you can develop. And it takes development. It takes listening for those intuitive messages, those intuitive signs. And I think one thing that gets in the way of that is that intuition is not always the loudest voice in the room. There are other things that can get in the way of being able to hear that subtle voice, one of them being fear, confusion, doubt, all these other kind of mind drama thoughts, I call them, that can drain our energy and kind of be like this dark cloud over our vision that makes it a lot harder to tune into intuition. And when I think about intuition and who it is most valuable for, and really I think it's valuable for everyone, but particularly for people who are choosing to be trailblazers, choosing to go after something that's unknown or uncertain, because the brain always wants certainty, stability. It wants to know what's happening. And intuition is likely leading us down an unfamiliar path, an unknown path. And being able to trust that, I think, takes developing and takes building that skill. So, yeah, I can talk about a lot of different examples of where that's shown up in investments and with clients, but I just want to pause there first and see if there's anything that comes to your mind when I say that.
Yeah, totally, totally. And I love the way that you describe this, because this shows up all the time when we're making really big, powerful choices that take us outside of our comfort zone. And this can happen in so many case scenarios, like anytime we're making any sort of big decision. But for me, it's easiest to see it when we look at investing money, because that's such a tangible pinpoint of a moment where it
Yeah.
can feel really uncomfortable and scary. And that's that moment where a lot of fear comes
Yeah.
up. So I have this conversation all the time with my clients when they're considering investing in empowered abundance. And I also have this conversation with myself all the time whenever I'm considering investing in a coaching program or traveling and attending a retreat or making a really big investment. And it can be really hard to tell the difference between fear and intuition in those moments, because I also feel like they both show up in the body. When you're
Yeah.
making a big choice, like for example, I'm going to invest in this program that feels like the right choice that I believe is going to get me the results, but at the same time, it's not guaranteed. It's a lot of money. I don't really feel like I can afford it. It feels like a huge risk. What if it doesn't pay off? And that fear can also show up in the body as a fight or flight response that makes it feel like it's not the right time, it's not the right choice. And then on top of that, we have all this logic that says, like, you can't afford it. Where's the money going to come from? And there's definitely a lot that can get in the way of being able to find your intuition, trust your intuition, know what your intuition is telling you. And then, even if you do know what your intuition is telling you, being able to actually act and move forward on that against all the fear and doubt that might be coming up. So, yeah, I'm really curious to know how you identify the difference between intuition and fear. I know there's things that I speak to, but I'd love to hear what your version of this is too.
Yeah, totally. And one thing I want to say before I answer that question is that, before the point of decision, so say someone's thinking about investing with you, they're thinking about investing in me, or, we're thinking about investing in anything. I think it's really important to be able to identify what actually matters to you. And this is, what I talk about with my clients all the time. And I'm sure, you talk about empowered abundance as well, of what do you desire in life? What are your core values? What's the essence of the things that actually matter? Because without having that North Star to, guide your path, it can be very easy to succumb to fear or doubts or all these other things. So to be able to identify what actually matters to you and why does that matter so much? So if there is a dream on your heart, like why is it valuable enough to you? Why is it important enough to you that you want to pursue it? That you'd be willing to be uncomfortable to pursue it? That you'd be willing to take risks to pursue it? That you'd be willing to be step out of your comfort zone? So that feels like foundational before even getting to the point of asking yourself, like, is this a yes for me? Is this a no for me? Because how do you even know if you aren't clear first of what matters? So for me, like I said, my podcast is called Follow Your Spark. So much of what I do is about igniting that spark inside of you. Because doing something different, investing in something, all of that, it's going to push up against that brain's fear response. So without igniting that fire, it can be very hard to get over that hump of discomfort. So, first and foremost, what do you actually want? Why does it matter? Why is it so valuable to pursue that? So, say you've identified that. And then there's an opportunity. Maybe it's an opportunity to invest in something, an opportunity to take a step towards something. And you have a thought of, okay, that could be valuable, that could align with my goal. But then fear shows up and says, yeah, but what's going to happen And what, do I have the money? Is it possible? Is it probable? All these doubts, these thoughts that are asking to be answered that are again tied back to that primitive, like fear survival based response. So when I think about intuition, it's not about just ignoring those things, because sometimes to even get to the essence of intuition, we have to quiet those thoughts. So we can work together. The mind and the heart can work together. So to be able to answer some of those worst case scenario thoughts of like, yeah, okay, how would I deal with that? How could I find the money? How could I support myself? How could this work out? To be able to answer those thoughts so that the brain can get quiet enough that then I can ask my intuition, okay, does this feel like a yes for me? Does this feel like a no for me? And I have all kinds of intuitive practices that I do to tap into that physical sensation in my body of like, for me, if my body is leaning forward, that's often a yes. If my body is leaning back, that's often a no. And I have different kinds of like intuitive checkpoints to see different layers, to look at things from different angles. And I remember, you and I have been in business masterminds together for the past couple of years. And there's been times where it's like the moment of, are we going to re-up or not? And my brain and my intuition are kind of like having this conversation, and like these fears are coming up. So to be able to identify, why would this thing that I'm thinking about investing in be valuable, and answer it with all the like logical thoughts of why would this be valuable, and really spend time on that, and also give time and space for the intuitive unknown, because that's part of intuition. It's like, we don't get to know how it's going to work out. We don't get to know everything that's going to happen. And we can think about logically what's within our control that would make a difference in how we show up to that thing, and opening up to trust and the flow of life, and really seeing like, even if I can't understand exactly right now what's going to happen, my logical brain can make its best guesses, its best predictions, focus on who I'm going to be in that process. And there is a part of surrender. So it's like that choice moment of, the fear doesn't have to go away 100%. It's okay if it's still there on some level, and to be able to tune into what feels like a stronger pull and what feels like a more aligned risk that you want to take. Does it feel more aligned to go for the thing and to really shoot for and aim for what could be possible? Or does that risk feel too much, and it would feel better to not take that risk, but take a different risk of not investing or not doing the thing, and see what happens in that path? So I think part of this process is like letting go of the need to be 100% certain, because I don't think we can ever be 100% certain or think that fear is going to go away 100%. We can just do our best to work with both of these energies.
Totally. Yeah. And you said so many good things that I deeply resonate with. First of them being, instead of like bypassing the fear or ignoring the fear, we have to learn to recognize the fear and work with the fear. Like, how can we acknowledge, fear is always coming up for a reason. Anytime we're expanding beyond our current comfort zone, the survival instincts kick in. So I often see fear as an indicator that you are actually moving and stretching in the right direction sometimes, because it means you're expanding your comfort zone. And often the vision that we want is outside the life we're currently living and is therefore outside of our comfort zone. But when we just like try to ignore those fears and push them down, they're going to hold us back. So we need to have these practices for acknowledging them, recognizing them, and working with them so that we can still make the aligned choice to move forward. And I also love what you said about, there's this balance of self-trust and really faith in the unknown. And I believe that when we practice this, when we practice tapping into our intuition and making these big decisions that feel scary and uncomfortable, it gets easier and easier over time, and we build and develop deeper levels of self-trust. And that's something I remind myself of all the time, is no matter what happens, like, even if it was worst case scenario, I know I'm always going to be okay no matter what, because I'm always going to be there for me and I'm never going to give up on me. And I know that because I've had my own rock bottom moment where life looked a lot different than it does now. And I pulled myself out of that hole. And the likelihood that I'm going to get back there is pretty small. But even if it did happen, like, I know that I would survive it. And so just having that deep sense of self-trust helps me feel more confident in the unknown. But even on top of that, there are still some unknown factors. So how can we be in control of what we can be in control of? And I think this is where it gets more tangible and strategic. So in the work I do, it's look at your money, manage your money, see what's going on. And even if sometimes you are taking a financial risk, how can that be a known and strategic financial risk? And I've done this in my business where I've invested things that I didn't have money sitting around for, but I said, you know what, I am going to intentionally put this on a credit card. I am going to intentionally accumulate debt for this, but I'm going to do it in the most strategic way possible. And often for me, I've been able to crush that credit card debt in a matter of like 3 months without paying any interest at all. But that's a skill that gets to be developed over time.
Yeah. And that's something that I think about often, of this like reality check. So if my brain is saying, it's not safe to invest $10,000 in something, it's being able to actually look at my finances and be like, is that true? Like, am I going to go broke tomorrow if I invest 10K today? And it's pretty much always no, like, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to go homeless. I'm not going to lose my home. And to be able to really look at, okay, like, what is the worst case scenario that my brain could possibly think of? It's like, I'm an entrepreneur. So worst case scenario is like, somehow I don't sign another client all year and I make $0 the rest of this year. What would happen? It's like, well, I have investment accounts. If I needed to, I would take money out of those investment accounts and use that to pay my bills. Do I think that's going to happen? No. And can I use that as a thought of like, brain, like, look, we're okay. We're going to be okay. Because I think sometimes that fear-based response can just feed us things that feel like the truth, and we don't actually question them. Of really like doing the reality check to see like, what is true? How would I solve for that perceived worst case scenario, just to really have an answer for that? Because that can, again, like, calm the nervous system enough, calm the energy enough to really tune into the intuition and say, okay, do I think this would be a valuable investment, and why? And really think about, because I think some people think of investments like, I'm losing this money. I'm going to give $10,000 for this program or this coach or whatever it is, and I'm going to lose this money, versus thinking about what's the return on investment that's going to be created from this. And one thing I think about that feels so funny sometimes is, again, just what we're conditioned, programmed to believe in. It's like how much money we spend on college, how much money we spend on master's programs, how much money people will put into the stock market. And like for me, I think it was 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I put 10K in cryptocurrency. And when I was thinking about, do I want to invest in this? I had all kinds of reasons for, like, I wanted to learn about crypto. I thought this would be useful. And I was also prepared to lose it all. Of like, if this is a failed experiment and I make no money from this, I'm going to gain wisdom, I'm going to gain experience. And like, how easy though it was to invest 10K in that. I think also because like I grew up in the programming, in the belief of like, investing is a smart use of money. You should invest in the stock market. You should invest in things. You should put your money in things that have the possibility to create returns on investment. And yet many people were not raised with the belief that you should invest in your brain, that your brain is a worthwhile investment. You as an asset is a worthwhile investment. So now I really see of like, the most valuable investment is me, is my brain. So me investing 10K in my brain, how could that create wilder returns on investment than investing in cryptocurrency potentially ever could? And really just noticing how we think about what we're investing in, and really asking ourselves, like, what do we think the return on that investment is going to be? And I think potentially sometimes like with the stock market, I might feel like, oh, I just put money in and I don't have to do any work and I'm just going to make buckets of money. Like that's a wonderful thought, right? Of just like, it takes no effort on my part versus when you invest in coaching, when you invest in learning, it does take effort. So I think that's also a difference. And like being willing to, again, it's like whatever the currency is, whether it's time or money or energy, it's being able to think about what is the return on investment I think I'm going to get back from investing my time, investing my energy, investing my thought power, investing my money. And is that worth it? I think that's the key question at the end of the day.
Totally, totally. And I think when it comes to investing in something like a mastermind or coaching or investing in your brain, it can feel scary. One, because it's not societally promoted like these other things that we invest in, but also because in many ways it can feel intangible and not guaranteed that return on investment. And sometimes it's not even like a monetary or financial return on investment, depending on the type of investment that you're making and the choice that you are making. And this is where in the past couple of years, I've really started to see how can I be more and more in control of creating a return on investment no matter what. And as often as I possibly can, how can I guarantee that as a financial return? But even if it's not a financial return, how can I ensure that I'm receiving the same, if not more, level of value than what I have put into it? And the reason why I think this conversation is so important, especially when it comes to investments, is because I'm a strong believer, and honestly, like this is the whole point of the work I do and the work of this podcast, is that your money is how you manifest your life. Like your money is a tool for creation, and you create this reality that you're living, and you can also use your money as a tool to create your vision and bring that into reality. And so for me, my whole journey of building my business has been a practice of expanding my comfort zone and powerfully investing, like moving my money in the direction of where I want to go. And for me, that means taking big risks and being wildly uncomfortable all the time. And that's how I know it's working. And I have seen it pay off. Like I have seen the result of that, even though sometimes I didn't see it right away. There were investments that I made that felt like they didn't pay off. They felt like they weren't worth the money. I just talked about this on like a super recent podcast episode, but I did gain from those and I learned to see how did I create the value? Why was that worth it? Even if I just gained one new belief from making that decision in the first place, like every time I invest money in my vision, it is a quantum leap. And it happens, I've gone around this ringer enough times that often what happens is I'm like sitting over here, I'm like, universe, help me. I want my 7-figure business. I have my vision I want to work towards. And then the universe gives me an investment opportunity. It's like, Scarlett, here you go. Here's the thing that's going to help you get to where you want to go. And I'm like, crap, like, darn it, I don't want to spend this money. It feels really uncomfortable. It feels really intimidating. I totally wasn't planning on it. It jacks up my timing. It jacks up my finances. Like, I was not expecting this at all. And yet I see that as this is exactly what I was asking for. And if I choose to wait on this and push it off into the future, like that is also me pushing my vision off into the future. And so the best thing that I can do, and also what I help my clients do, is how can I confidently make decisions with my money, especially in an expanded capacity way. So that might mean feeling more and more comfortable with more and more risk and bigger investments with my money in alignment with my vision, and use that to intentionally propel me into my vision over and over again.
Yeah. I heard a couple of things in that. One being, again, the importance of that vision. Because without you having of like, okay, I'm working towards a 7-figure business, when the investment opportunity came up and you felt that tension, if you didn't have that connection and be like, oh, forget it. I don't need that. Totally. Life right now is fine. I'm okay. So it really requires, like, if we want to expand to our next level, we have to have a next level dream that feels important enough to us, because otherwise, then there's no problem with this. If you're satisfied with your life right now, beautiful. Like, that's not a problem. And it's when it comes to investing, likely you're investing in something because you think it's going to help you develop a skill. You think it's going to offer you value in some way. You think it's going to forward you towards your goals. So you do have to be clear of, like, again, what matters to you and be able to weigh, is saying yes to this decision going to, potentially get me closer towards that? Or would saying no to this decision get me closer towards that? Like, would saving money somehow get me closer towards that? And yeah, for me, I again like grew up in this family that was very frugal and like very much valued saving as much money as possible. And I've had these visions when I've like done kind of like money meditations and things before of just like sitting on a pile of gold. Like I just want to like hoard all of my like pile of gold and like sit on it. But I've had to like ask myself, what is the value of that? What is the value of just accumulating as much as possible, but not actually investing? So I've really had to shift my mindset to see of, like you said, using money as a creative tool and to really be clear about what is the dream I'm aiming towards? How is investing in something, whatever it is, potentially getting me closer towards that dream? And am I willing to feel the discomfort that comes with releasing some of that money and believing that opening up that channel of flow, spending it, letting it go, is also going to allow me to receive more and more, because I'm not in this constricted energy where I'm like holding as tightly to my money as humanly possible. So that has really been a shift of, again, like, how am I intentionally choosing where my money is going? So that was one thing. And then the other thing that you talked about kind of like measuring success and measuring like, what's working. This is something that I feel like is so huge, because I think some people might have shame or judgment around, maybe they've invested in the past and it feels like they haven't created the returns that they wanted, or it didn't work out the way that they wanted, whatever it is. So a huge part of the work that I do is about looking for what did work. My coaching program is called Owning Your Becoming, and it's about looking at your past and really seeing all those quantum leaps, seeing how far you've grown, looking at potentially an investment that you think maybe you didn't get anything from, and actually seeing, what did I gain from that? How did I grow from that? Because the more you look for what worked, the more you look for your growth, the more you look for this evidence of how, all the things you've gained from your experiences, that's going to help you gain more in the future. And this takes practice, because again, our brains are wired for that default fear response to scan for danger and all of those things. So that's why I believe it's so valuable to really track evidence of how you have grown from your investments or from anything, from any experience that you have, and really use that as fuel so that you can be more confident and believe, okay, I trust myself to make the most of this investment. I trust myself that I am going to go all in and I'm going to gain something no matter how this goes. So again, that can quiet the fear and help you tune into your intuition so that you can see, if I believed that I can make the most of this no matter what happens, would this be a yes for me or would this be a no? And that's when I feel like the intuition is so powerful to be able to work forward in those kinds of questions after you've quieted those kinds of like default fear responses.
Totally. I totally agree. And the way I ask my clients that same question is like, what choice would your abundant self make? And that doesn't necessarily mean like I have tons of money, so I'm going to say yes to everything. But I believe it's, how can we powerfully say yes to what is in alignment for us? Because every single time you spend money, whether it's on a large investment, like a coaching program, or if it's on something small, like in your day to day, every time you spend money, what you're doing is you're making a choice and you're making a decision about your life. And the question really is what is driving that decision? Is it coming from a place of fear and not enoughness and scarcity and lack? That could be like, I'm really uncomfortable and therefore I'm grasping for something to make me feel better. That's where like impulse shopping comes in. Or like, I really want this thing, but like for my vision, but I feel afraid and I don't know if it's going to work out, and I'm going to let fear say no in this moment. And you can have an aligned yes, you can have an aligned no. It's not a matter of say yes to everything and never say no again. It's just recognizing, is it intuition? Is it alignment? Is it abundance that is driving your actions that you take every single day? Or is it fear, scarcity, lack, and not enoughness? Because your money is an amplifier. It's going to expand it. So when you make decisions in your life from a place of fear and then you bet your money on that or not, like that is what you're amplifying. That's what you're creating. And I think the truth is too, is that it's going to be uncomfortable one way or the other. Either staying in your comfort zone bubble of safety and protection, if you're not fully living your vision, like that can be uncomfortable in one way. And then there's the discomfort that comes from boldly expanding your comfort zone and saying yes to something, even if fear is coming up. That's also uncomfortable, but it's like a worthy uncomfortableness. It's a worthy discomfort because you are choosing that vision. And to me, that's my definition of living an abundant life, and also harnessing the power of your money to be able to do that. And that's really how we create our visions. And it's not just with your money, it's also how you spend your time and your energy.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was just coming to me right now is like, if people are listening to this and they're saying, yeah, but still, how do I know if it's fear or intuition? I really love journaling, intuitive journaling, and you can ask yourself questions like, if I believed this would work out, what choice would I make? Or, really letting your pen just write. If I trusted myself to make the most of this no matter what, if I believed I could overcome whatever obstacle in my way, what choice would I make? Because I think sometimes what I've heard sometimes with clients or potential clients thinking about working together, they're like, yeah, but I think right now I should just pause. Maybe I should either like do it on my own or wait till later. I think I'm okay right now. And again, that comes back to like, is the vision strong enough that you feel compelled to want to move forward? And then asking and seeing like, what is really there? And asking yourself, what am I afraid of? Like, that's a really clear question too. Like, what am I afraid of, to really bring that to the surface? Because maybe that's not present and your brain is telling you, oh, I'm just getting this intuitive sense that it's a no. But exploring, what am I afraid of? And then if I wasn't letting this fear stop me, what would I do? What choice would I make? What would my most courageous, bold self, what would they want to do and why? And really, again, coming back to the essence of that. And all of this is just an exploration. At the end of the day, you can still choose no, but at least give yourself the space to explore, what if it did work out? What if I created results beyond what I could even imagine? What if I made the most of this no matter what? What would be possible? And then once you've given like equal weight to both sides, the fears and the possibilities, then you can kind of, again, come back to your heart and ask, what would serve my highest self? Like, that's always the question I come back to. What would serve my highest self? What would serve my growth the most in this moment? And really tune in and check in and see what your intuition says.
I love that very like clear and tangible practice. And then the one thing that I would also add to it that I do for myself and also my clients is I love to look at towards versus away energy and what is dictating your decision and your actions. Is it coming from, I'm trying to move away from this thing? So like, I don't want to lose all my money. I don't want this to be a failure. I don't want to feel uncomfortable in spending all my savings. And therefore I'm going to say no, or like, yes. Versus what am I going to choose that's moving me towards where I want to go? So I'm making this choice because I'm choosing my vision, or because I am choosing a sense of safety and security, right? So it doesn't matter if it's yes or no. It's just what's the energy driving your actions? Is it moving away from something you don't want and away from something you're afraid of? Or is it moving towards something that you do want and something that's important to you? And that goes back to what you've been highlighting of needing clarity on your vision and what you want to move towards in the first place. So just adding that to your awesome journaling questions is another way that I like to identify that difference between fear choosing versus intuition.
Yes. I love that, towards and away. And that's something too, like I said, with even just checking in with your body, like my body leans towards something when something is a yes and leans away from something if something is a no. And if you're listening to this and you maybe haven't practiced connecting with your intuition, I do offer a free resource that is all about this. And it's about connecting with your intuition will guide you towards the intuitive practice that will serve you most right now. It's like this oracle card, beautiful exercise. So I can share that at some point in this podcast as well. But that's a way to really explore different intuitive practices if this is something new to you that you've never experimented really with before.
Yeah, I love that. And I've done it. So you should definitely check it out. Where can they find that, Gina?
Yeah. So if you go to ginacasbarro.com/intuition, and I recommend playing with this on your computer versus a phone. It's going to look a little different. They both work, but if you can, look at it on a computer. And if you've ever used oracle cards before, the way that I built this site is like I typically will spread out oracle cards on a table and just ask my intuition, please guide me to whatever message would serve me most right now. And I just let my hands drift across the cards and choose one. So you could do this on the screen of your computer. Please guide me to what intuitive practice would serve me most right now. And you click on it. And once you click on that card, it shows you the name of an intuitive practice that would serve you. And once you enter your email, you'll get a video from me that really breaks down this practice to help you experiment with this for yourself. And if you're not a video person, there's a description. So that's there too. And you'll get access to all 5 of these practices for you to explore, whichever one calls to you. But I really find it's so valuable to have like tangible, concrete tools to strengthen this muscle and skill. Because like I said, it is a skill that you can develop. And just like anything, it just takes your time, your energy, your intention. So yeah, give it a try.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that you have such a tangible way to strengthen this. And I find that it's so important when it comes to creating your vision, moving past obstacles, and especially powerfully investing in yourself. So if you're listening, go ahead and check that out. It's super fun. It's super quick. It's lots of great information, and the link will be in the show notes as well. And Gina, thanks so much for coming back on the show and chatting with me today. I feel like this was such a valuable conversation. I know there's going to be tons of people who resonate with this. Before I let you go, can you share with everybody where they can connect with you, learn more, and just hop into your world?
Yes. So you can find me on the Follow Your Spark podcast. Like we've said, Scarlett has been a guest on my podcast as well. I'm on Instagram, Gina Casbarro. And if you're listening to this and intuition is something really important to you, if connecting with your vision is something really important to you, I, of course, work with clients one-on-one, and you can always find a time to connect with me, ginacasbarro.com/clarity call, if you want to talk more about that and learn about my work. So it's just such a gift to connect with you and your audience today. So thank you so much for having me.
Yes, amazing. And to everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your Money Monday, and I will see you next week.